Hello Smart Movers and welcome to Smart Move Insider, a place where we talk about fitness from within. I'm Sergio, your host, and I'm talking today with Bart about injuries. How do they occur and how should we deal with them? How do you feel these days, man?
I'm good. Still training 4 or 5 times a week. Yeah, I did have an injury lately, shoulder muscle that ached a bit after a workout with dumbbell thrusters. So I have been managing, rehabbing it, and today was the first day actually that I pressed overhead again, and I was pain free.
So, are you telling me that you are training with an injury? You haven't stopped completely?
No, I haven't stopped completely because, like we said in our last episode, if you want to get in shape, it's about regularity in training, and it's not because one of the body parts doesn't want to cooperate that we should get completely out of shape. So, no, I don't train with the injury, I train around the injury.
Tell us a bit more about that.
I think the first thing that we need to think about is difference between am I injured or am I hurt? Because for me, there is a difference. So if after the warm-up it's getting better, you're just hurt. You're not injured. If after warm-up the pain is exactly the same, maybe you need to look deeper and maybe we should first start with let's rest a bit, maybe a protocol, a full rest I'm talking then, a protocol of maybe some anti-inflammatory or icing. I know icing, it's like people are for and against it. For me, it relieves pain. So do test things out. Don't just take over the popular opinion from online. Just test it out. If it works for you, it works for you. And then to come back in slowly with, in my case, so that's what I did. I went first, I iced it. Then I came back to training and I did multiple days banded exercises that were semi-pain free. You cannot expect if something hurts that when you're doing a light exercise that you're going to be completely pain free. So I'm mostly aiming for if it's a 3 or a 4 out of 10, it's okay. It's not that bad. It's discomfort. It's not pain. So I started doing the exercises, all kinds of exercises that, seeing that you're listening, I'm not going to try to describe them, but let's say it was not weight, it was banded exercises. I did a very thorough warm-up of my shoulder. The pain would go down. It's not because the pain goes down that at that moment I say, okay, now I'm good for snatches and presses. No. I just do that to get blood flow through the area, so to help the healing process. But then my goal in training is I'm not going to do things that going to potentially make the condition worse because I'm trying to recover it. And then from day to day, I'm going to see how do I feel the day after with the things that I did. Okay, I'm on the good practice. I do again the banded exercises, do good warm up, and then I go again in training. So in training, I would not do strict presses, no explosive movements. So what would I do, for example, if it's strict press in class? I would adjust the exercise. It depends. If it's a thruster, I will do a front squat. If it's, for example, strict presses in the strength part, that would be the moment that you should go to the coach and say, maybe this would be the moment to do more rehab exercises for your shoulder while the rest is doing strict presses. It's fine. In the Metcon, big chance there are all exercises that don't aggravate your, or in this case, my issue. So I could do anything but go overhead. If it was snatches, I would do a hypo.
I think this is a thing getting passed very fast by the members. We always telling them that if you have an injury, let us know, so we work around it. But I don't think they hear it sometimes, because you should tell the coach what you're dealing with, so we can help you. Because you, Bart, you're a coach. You know how to manage yourself. You don't need to ask somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
But as a member, you need to tell the guy in front, the coach, you need to tell him what's your problem, so he can guide you.
For sure.
I think the worst case that can happen to you when you're with an injury is make it worse.
Also for the coach, you can't imagine what the coach feels, because we're responsible for you guys to keep you safe. What he feels when you don't say anything and then all of a sudden I see you grab to your back just to find out that it's been hurting already for a couple of days. I cannot help you if you don't communicate with me. We have experience in managing pains and rehabbing them and working around them. So you would not lose your fitness. You could still work with what's on the board, but some exercises might not be a good idea. Sometimes it can be as simple as my wrist hurts. When I have the bar in the front rack, I give you a dumbbell, and because of the rotation of the wrist, now it's straight, you don't have a pain. Sometimes it's as simple as that. The main thing is that we need to get out of people's head the sentence of, it's fine. No, it's not fine. It's fine today, you stress it again, it becomes a bit worse tomorrow, you stress it again and you still don't speak and you don't work around it. Now the being hurt becomes, now I'm injured. We want to avoid that point of being injured. Again, I come to class with the mindset of, I'm making choices in class that makes me come back tomorrow, not to make it worse.
Yes. So let's address the elephant in the room. Everybody says that CrossFit is dangerous. You will get hurt in CrossFit, and then they actually hurt themselves. What's your opinion about that?
I think you can even look it up online. There are statistics on that. CrossFit is not necessarily more injury prone than other sports. Running and playing football have a higher statistics on injuries over a year base on X amount of training hours than CrossFit does. So it's a bit of preconception in my opinion. And do people get hurt doing CrossFit? Yeah, but in a lot of those cases, it's also the choices they make. So it's always important to make right choices. So we can go through a couple of things that you need to keep in mind to keep you away more from injury. Like, for example, maybe you can talk to them about how important it is to move well before you do anything else.
Yes, this goes into mechanics, consistency, intensity. You should always take care of how you move and to try to move. But what I want to say regarding this subject is you can get injured in your home, sitting on your couch. You extend your arm to grab the remote control and a twitch in your neck and you stiff. You try to play with your kid, you run with him in the house and you bust your knee. So injuries can occur whenever. Is what you do with them, and especially in the gym, how do they occur? So let's address this part. How do injuries occur first of all? My first take on it, it's sometimes overuse. So besides you don't listen to the advice of the coach, is the overuse. This happens in my case, for example. When I'm doing too many crunch movement like bending, if for example I have deadlift and sit-ups or deadlift and burpees, my middle becomes very soft. So I'm lacking a bit of a strength over there. So when I get like hundreds of reps in that big volume, I start having pains.
And what do you do on those days when you see that popping up on the board, that particular combo that you know, this is not a good combo for me?
First, I would need to evaluate myself very strictly and see how many days I trained, and then to see if I'm fit for doing all these things today. If not, I just push a bit back and just let it slide a bit past me and not take the challenge.
I have the same thing with just like you said, you have a certain combination that always aggravates you. I have that also. If I do pistols, I have an EV operation from 20 years ago. They don't sit very well with me. And the same with when I'm doing handstand push-ups, skipping. I'm over 100 kilos. I know you need to control yourself down so you don't slam your head too much. But when you're tired, you will end up slamming your head on the ground more than you want. And then I get a neck pain. So I have certain exercises that I just don't do anymore. Doesn't mean I won't show up that day for class. I will just change the exercise. I will still train, but certain exercises are not worth it. So if you have certain exercises that always do give you a certain pain, talk to the coach about it. Maybe we can figure out if there is an underlying reason why you're in that pain. Maybe it's a mobility issue that needs to be addressed. But till then, we can replace the exercise. There is no one exercise that you need to do to get in shape. You can drop certain exercises and still be in shape.
This pushes me to the next subject, mobility restrictions. We all know that overhead for an adult is very hard to push a barbell above your head with a good position without your ribs sticking out, it's a big mobility issue. Can that push you into having an injury?
For sure, I struggle with it also. I have a bit of a rounded upper back, so for me overhead movements are tricky. So if you put your body in a not ideal position with lightweight, nothing is gonna happen. But do the same thing with heavyweight, then your body is gonna compensate somewhere. For me, for example, it can be if I go heavyweight overhead and I don't squeeze my rib cage as down as I can, even with my not so optimal form, I will get a tweak in my scapula. Other people could get a tweak in their lower back because they're not comfortable. If you look at them from the side, they're not one line from the wrist all the way down till their feet. So that heavy weight pressing down, it's gonna eventually hurt something. So you need to be very aware of your weaknesses mobility wise. And then it's again risk versus reward. Is it worth doing 5 kilos extra because you wanna have more weight on the bar and wanna have a better score on the board? Probably not. There are different ways to make things hard. For example, instead of putting 40 kilos on the bar for 8 strict presses, maybe you keep the 35 or the 30, but you hold it 1 second overhead, or you go slower on the negative. You will still feel it in your muscles, but without overdoing it. Because with that weight, you can get in a better position. But with the heavier weight, you start overarching because now it's a heavy weight. So risk versus reward, it's important. And especially know your weaknesses mobility-wise. If you're not in a good position, eventually pushing your body to the limits weight-wise will injure you.
That leads me again to bad movement. What about bad movement? Even if it's body weight. I know I can go 100 squats very fast, but not so correctly. I overuse my knees, and then I'm going to feel a bit of an itch, let's say, a bit of weaknesses in them. Can this lead further on the road on an injury?
Yeah, for sure. I'm assuming that when you're feeling your knees being achy, you're probably a bit knee dominant when you went in your air squats and then doing them fast. So yeah, everything. If we want to avoid injury, our main objective should be do the exercise correctly. The moment we can build a bit of muscle memory at lightweight or even empty bar on an exercise, then would be the moment to start adding weight and adding speed, starting to do it faster. The same on an air squat. It's just an air squat. It's just a body weight exercise. But if you start your air squat every time with bending your knees first, over 100 reps, it's a lot of sheer force on the knees. Also there, it's important that we do exercises correctly because even a body weight exercise can lead to overstressing a joint.
Exactly. I don't think there's any result that can go from bad movement.
No.
Even if you have a good score today. It's bad for you, it's good for the whiteboard, but it doesn't make any sense for you to do that long term.
No. The coach cares about it, and we want you guys to care about it also, because the moment you get injured, then some of you wake up, but it's an accumulation of all the things you've been doing week in, week out, maybe not so clean reps, just to get a little bit faster. Focus on correct movement, and you will also get stronger, more efficient, and the weights and the speed will come after, and you will be more safe.
Okay, so to sum it up, injuries occur from our experience from overuse, mobility restriction, and bad movement. So we did it, we injured ourselves, let's say. How do we approach it? What's the first thing you should do when you injure yourself in a class or training by yourself?
Depending on what the injury is, I would probably take the first day after rest, full rest, and just see a little bit how I feel a day later.
Don't you call them medic?
Not directly, no, because if you, the more sport experience you have, then you start realizing more the difference, like I told before, between being hurt and being injured. Most of the cases, it's not an acute injury, like I ripped my meniscus, I broke my arm, like in most cases, you're hurt. I could say 90% of cases you're hurt, so give it a day. Maybe a day full rest, and then let's see how you feel. Let's not go worst case scenario directly. You could still go to the doctor if the pain didn't change a thing after a full day of rest. After I would come into the gym, and then, like I described you in the first minutes, warm up very well the area that is hurting and see if the pain goes down. Train, but don't overstress that body part for the first days or weeks until the pain gets better by just doing that thorough warm-up. When the thorough warm-up starts to, like, okay, instead of a 4 out of 10 pain, I don't seem to feel anything anymore. Next step would be do a static exercise for that joint or area that hurts. For example, my shoulder hurts. The first thing I'm going to do is strict press, not push press or snatch. Strict press is more controlled. Snatch will be too explosive. So go for the more controlled version first. You have no pain. Okay, now we can start light on a more explosive movement. You have no pain. Now we start light, weight, and so on. And you work your way out of testing day to day. How far can I go? Pain gets worse. Pain got better. And it's a bit of trial and error. But if needed, something is not changing, you can still go to a doctor, but that would not be my first choice. You heard the stories that a lot of people that end up at the doctor with a pain, no matter what, a lot of doctors' first reflex is, where does it hurt? Your lower back. What do you do from a day to day? I lift weights. Okay, stop lifting weights. Because lift weights, that's why you're in pain. This is like their conclusion. They're not thinking rehab, they're thinking just avoid. So instead of lifting weights, from now on, I want you to swim and I want you to ride your bicycle. If I hear or if I would get one myself, diagnosis like that, I would get a second opinion to begin with. And I would check with a coach or a physiotherapist that has experience in rehabbing out of pain. Not taking advice from a doctor that is used to, in this case, he just wants to avoid. He's not rehabbing you, he's avoiding you. What about it's something that you really love? With weights, a lot of people have the thing like, okay, I hurt myself with weights, so we directly stop. Well, what about if it's you hurt your ankle with running? Would you say to the doctor, yeah, sure, doctor, I've been running like for 10 years. It's my passion. This is something I feel good. It's my sport, running. I will not run ever again because you said that I should just avoid because running made my ankle hurt. No, it's not my opinion about it. You can get out of pain. If I break my arm, I go to the doctor.
Yes. I usually tell people to take 3 days off, see how that feels.
Yeah.
Maybe just a muscle pull, you twitch something. If in 3 days doesn't go, come to the gym, move a bit, see if it hurts after you warm up a bit, and diagnose a bit like that. And if it gets longer and longer, and if it doesn't pass, you should see a doctor probably. But from my experience, I think you can have a pain from 6 to 8 to 9 months, and then passes. One day is just out, and you don't believe it. And it's a thin line, but sometimes you need to feel yourself when you're hurt and when you're just feeling some pain. Because if you get hurt, like your meniscus, you can feel that pop, like a arm break. You can hear it inside your head when you break something.
I've had a meniscus injury, and 2 days after the operation, I was already with the sports doctor doing weights, light weights, 2 days after. So the sport doctors that I have seen and the physios in my life would always tell me that the way out of pain is movement, not just complete rest, because I bet some of you have had this. You had a pain, you rested for a month, the pain was completely gone, you started moving, it came back. So to rehab yourself out of pain, you need to expect a certain discomfort. Like I said, 3-4 out of 10 that you're gonna move your way out of gradually. So only rest is not always the solution, and avoidance is not only the solution. So the advice that they gave me is that if you're having, in my case was a joint, so the knee, now what you need to do is put as much muscle around that weaker part as you can to support it for the future, and I did. I've done, I also, and I still do, I do knee focused exercises to strengthen everything up, and it keeps me out of pain. And I think the same goes for back pain. I bet maybe you've also had this sometimes with beginner people. They have a back pain, they have muscle pain actually in their back after a workout with a lot of hip hinging, kettlebell swings, deadlifts, anything like that, and they think they're injured. But if they on training come and they have a lot of ab pain, they're happy. They're both muscles, guys. How can ab pain be good and back muscle pain be bad? It's the same thing. You stress the muscle. Maybe you did too much volume. That's very possible. But you have muscle pain. You will have muscle pain and you'll get stronger out of it. So don't directly panic. So to go back into injury ideas, if you have the tendency to have pains in your back, I do suggest to do some extra focused exercises just for you if you have that specific problem, and do some back extensions and stuff and strengthen the area. Don't avoid the area. Don't go into, I'm never going to do back exercise anymore. No, put muscle there.
Exactly. Okay, so to sum it up, if there's one message I would like to bring to the members from our gym.
I want to still say something before you sum it up. How about a very common one? Getting injured after a long break. How do I approach coming back after a long break or after a holiday to training?
My take on this is that you should maybe do 70% of the work sometimes, at least for 2 or 3 days. If it's longer than a week, definitely. If you stayed for a month or 2 weeks and above in the holiday, you should come back very, very attentive on your movement. You're not as you used to know if you didn't move in this period.
I would say that training is and staying fit is about regularly stressing your body. So every couple of days there need to be a certain stress. This is how we keep our cardio, this is how we keep our strength. Our body is used to that stress. If now we take that stress out for 2 weeks, it's a tricky one because you're gonna feel super because you just got a very long deload. Your body is feeling great. You're gonna need to resist from going back to the same intensity, weights, speed as you did 2 weeks ago. Like Sergio said, 70%, slow yourself down. Instead of, 50 kilos, maybe 40 kilos will be more appropriate for that day in the Metcon. And give yourself a couple of trainings before you start putting back the weights that you always used.
That's great. So, one takeaway from this entire episode would be talk to the coach. Whatever you have, whatever you think you've done, talk to the coach, see what he advises you. If he doesn't know, he probably will check up with somebody, with a colleague, and he will come up with a solution. After we talked about injuries, next time we're going to talk about mechanics, consistency, intensity, how to move with intention and as best as we can all the time. Like always, if you have any questions for us, please drop them into our email, and you can find us on Instagram. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.